Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Scorpio new moon meditation, which coincides with a solar eclipse. And this eclipse is the one of greatest magnitude in the annual cycle. And so, therefore, this is a very important interlude in our year. In the writings of the Tibetan teacher in esoteric astrology, he doesn't mention eclipses. They're only mentioned one time in the entire 20 volumes. But in that brief passage, he equates the eclipse of greatest magnitude to, he places it on a par with the Wesak and Gemini full moons of the higher interlude period. So I think we are wise to pay attention to the importance of this opportunity, particularly, I think, occurring this year as it does in the sign of discipleship, the sign of the warrior, the sign of Scorpio. And so I'd like to begin with a moment of silence, as we always do, to link up with each other and with the worldwide group of disciples and seekers who are cognizant of the importance of these interludes. I am a point of light within a greater light. I am a strand of loving energy within the stream of love divine, and thus I stand. I am a way by which men may achieve. I am a source of strength, enabling them to stand. I am a beam of light, shining upon their way, and thus I stand. And standing thus revolve, and tread this way, the ways of men, and know the ways of God, and thus I stand. And now let's just continue with a brief visualization. Standing within the center of the fixed cross of discipleship, with the horizontal axis of Taurus and Scorpio, connecting us with the field of service, and with the vertical axis of Aquarius, Leo, taking our stand at the center of that cross, and reaching up and out to the great overshadowing star, Sirius, which governs this interlude. Focus the energies in the center of the cross. Radiate them out in 4 directions. Om. So perhaps during this afternoon we can reflect upon what the importance of this day and this exact time eclipse at 5:09 p.m. New York time might mean for our planet and for each one of us in our discipleship service. Because as I said, this is the sign of, preeminently the sign of discipleship. Tibetan always says that the masses of humanity find themselves in the scales, governed figuratively speaking by the sign of Libra, but that the discipleship group finds itself in the sign of the warrior, in the sign of discipleship. And so those of us who are attempting at least to govern our lives by this energy, by this sign, certainly this eclipse would be a powerful opportunity for us to take a step forward in our attempts to conquer the hydras that are effectively preventing us from moving forward into greater effectiveness in our sphere. The Tibetan speaks about the 9 tests in Scorpio, and you can read about those in esoteric astrology. But they, suffice it to say, they govern the physical etheric, they govern the emotional plane, 3 tests also on the mental plane. So this sign is really the sign of initiation in the sense that the tests prior to initiation are taken in Scorpio. The battle that we must wage within our environment are undergone in this sign. And so there's very much a sense of linking, as we mentioned last time, between the sign Scorpio and the sign of initiation per se, which is Capricorn. So that can also link um, this eclipse very much, falling as it does 6 weeks prior to the full moon of Capricorn, as a time of preparation, an important time of preparation for this upcoming festival week in December 21st through the 28th. Um, this sign can help us to liberate ourselves and liberate humanity from those conditions within our consciousness which are preventing us from taking that step forward. And I'm sure most of you are quite familiar with the labor of Hercules myth, the most well known of which is really this Scorpio battle that Hercules had with the Hydra. And so I just like to read this quote um, from the myth. When Hercules went before his teacher prior to entering into the battle, the teacher always gave him a few words of wisdom. And in this one, he said, "One word of counsel only I may give. We rise by kneeling. We conquer by surrendering. We gain by giving up. Go forth, O Son of God and Son of Man, and conquer. So we rise by kneeling. We conquer by surrendering. We gain by giving up. Uh, this is the fundamental teaching of so many spiritual paths about the need for cultivating a certain sense of detachment regarding any situation in which we might find ourselves, not being attached to the outcome of any situation. And in this labor, Hercules was really not doing very well in his attempts to battle the Hydra because, as you know, each time he cut off one head, two appeared. So he fast realized that he better change tactics. And since most of the battles were won in the midst of a tremendous struggle, um, and it does seem to be true that in our lives, when we're in the midst of that battle, that's when our intuition comes into play because there's no other way out. And so often the battles were won in the middle of the battle itself when there wasn't any time, and he just dropped to his knees and lifted the Hydra up into the light, and seething and hissing, it lost its power under the light of the soul. And so certainly it's a real um, symbol of the way in which we can succeed in the challenges that face us on our path, and collectively, um, as the new group of world servers attempts to confront the planetary hydra, the planetary dweller on the threshold, all of the conditions which are coalescing at this time of most importance in our entire planetary history. We're told this is the time of most importance. And so we are collectively confronting a planetary hydra of immense proportions. And so we can take our counsel and follow the lead of Hercules in wrestling with this hydra by getting as humble as we can. Certainly, humility is not a spiritual concept that's easily understood. We're all, I'm sure, cultivating humility in our lives. But there's a lot of confusion about what it means to be humble. And the Tibetan himself, in perhaps his only reference really to anything related to a personal experience in his own life, the only story or tale that he gave about his own life was characteristically in the Tibetan's character seems to be truly humble. He told of a life of failure because he was not able to accept the counsel of his teacher, who was trying to advise him and warn him of this situation that was developing in his consciousness, wherein he was lacking in humility. And the Tibetan said that he was unable to hear this counsel from his teacher and denied it to the hilt, and said that his teacher must be misinterpreting his actions, that his his love of the teacher was the greatest aspect of his personality demonstration, and that his teacher was misinterpreting him. But then the teacher, who was the Master KH, poured his light and energy into the Tibetan, and the Tibetan said it, symbolically speaking, sent him crashing to earth in the weight of his own egotism. So deep was his glamour at that time. And he said that he tells the story to save his disciples perhaps from a similar experience, because, as we know, time matters, the Tibetan says, and it's particularly in this time of opportunity and challenge in our planetary life, this most important time. Um, we can't afford to be caught in glamour and illusion, although we all are. But the Tibetan is sharing this story in the hopes that we can make the attempts in our daily lives to see ourselves clearly. And the Tibetan says this is a difficult thing to do. And so he gives, in regard to this teaching, one clue, which is a psychological tool. It's not just something the Tibetan works with, but he does say that when we're attempting to wrestle with our own Hydra, one of the most important keys to what our particular glamours might be is found in what it is that we find in other people that bothers us the most. This will give us all a clue as to perhaps what qualities, what glamours we're still manifesting in our own lives. So we can all undertake this practice in our daily lives by observing from a detached perspective what it is that pushes our buttons. It's said that at this time, the objective before the hierarchy is to break and dissipate the world glamour. This has to happen on a world scale, just as it happens in the life of every disciple. And the Tibetan goes on to goes on to say that this work, excuse me here, this work of dissipating glamour is something. It is the primary occupation of the hierarchy, and can be our primary occupation to the extent that we place ourselves within the periphery of that great ashram and do what we can to aid the hierarchy in its work. That means obviously dealing with the glamours in our own lives, but it also means coming together at interludes such as this, such as every full moon, every new moon, and at the eclipse points, to work with this powerful portal, this powerful wormhole in consciousness, wherein we can connect more assiduously to the light and then bring the light through into our consciousness, into our environment, and we stand as a great light bearer within the world. That's our task. That's our challenge, because the Tibetan does say that we walk very much in a world that is shrouded with the fogs and mists and darkness of glamour, Maya, and illusion. And so our task as a group is to attempt to dissipate these clouds and mists and fogs. So I like to say that the discipleship group, when asked, what is your vocation? We could say we're spiritual environmentalists, because just as on the physical plane, many disciples, many aspirants are working to combat the challenges of climate change and the very real threatening conditions of planetary pollution on the physical level. We who work with some understanding of the spiritual objective before our world at this time know that these fogs and mists are even thicker and more challenging on the emotional, the astral, and the mental planes. And so our task as a group is to stand in alignment with the spiritual hierarchy, using the power of Mercury, the power of our illumined minds and hearts, to bring about a collective blow, as the Tibetan says. We can strike a blow to this planetary glamour when we work together. So I'd just like to close with this quote, which spells it out clearly. The Buddha and his 900 arhats struck the first blow at the world glamour when he promulgated his Four Noble Truths. the Christ struck the second blow with his teaching of the nature of individual responsibility and of brotherhood. The next blow will be struck by the new group of world servers, acting under the direction of the world teacher and his disciples, symbolically described as Christ and his 9,000 initiates. So we can place ourselves, as I said, on the periphery of this hierarchy, of this great inner band of teachers who can work through us. They can only work through their students. At this time, they're not working openly on the physical plane. And so it's only through us and through our ability to align with this objective and to align with the group that we can prepare ourselves to strike this next blow. And I think we're on our way towards this realization. And so let us now work together in consciousness with our meditation. Let's link with each other. Forming a group and linking with all the other groups and individuals throughout the world. And visualize in our midst the earth, the embodiment of a great life. And feel ourselves as part of the oneness of this life. Link now with humanity. And now extend our alignment across the Antakarana rainbow bridge. And figuratively speaking, take our place on the periphery of the great ashram, linking with the world teacher at the center of that ashram. and reach out in consciousness to the great sign of Scorpio and the overshadowing influence from Sirius, which finds its anchor in the hierarchy. Hold the mind open and sensitive to impression. Now focus the energy within the group mind, visualizing an inpouring of the golden light of Mercury, focusing within the aura of the world teacher and extending the aura to include the new group of world servers wherever they are found. And we work with the keynote. Discover the members of the new group of world servers and strengthen their hands. see the light of the group soul strengthening the group. Visualize an outpouring of the energy of love through all planes and states of consciousness, dissipating the glamour and delusion of our world. Recenter the consciousness within the periphery of the great ashram. In the center of all love, I stand. From that center, I, the soul, will outward move. From that center, I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. Visualize a descent of white light into the center of the head, visualizing there a radiant sphere of light. Rededicate yourself to the service of the plan and lay practical steps that you can take in your daily life to be of greater usefulness. distribution. Distribute the energies through the ajna center between the eyebrows, releasing them into the planetary etheric network of triangles. Focus through the planetary centers of New York, London, Geneva, Darjeeling, Tokyo. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into human minds. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into human hearts. May the coming one return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide all little human wills, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the human race, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you for your participation. It might be that I'll send out a webinar announcement for an exact time meeting. That would occur around 4:30 this afternoon, New York time. I'm not sure about that, but if you're interested, check your email. Okay, goodbye. God bless. Ciao.